Hello and welcome to the New Age Geek channel. If you're new here, I'm always just too fast. If you're new here, we're building an inclusive space for people of all walks of life through the power of friendship, magic, and tabletop role-playing games. Tonight we have Investigation Check, our irregular interview show where we dive into the lives of geeky creators to learn about their hobbies, passions, and the untold stories behind our favorite content. For tonight's episode, we have TTRPG performer, podcast producer, musical composer, and sad boy storyteller Sean of Help Action Needed. What's up, Sean?
Hey everyone, I exist. I'm here.
Okay. To start off, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you at, Sean?
Yeah. Luckily, I've been able to solidify the brand name across everywhere. So if you want to find me anywhere, you can just look up Help Action Needed. Here on Twitch, literally anywhere you get your podcasts. If we're not on a site, let me know because I don't know how we're not there. Buzzsprout makes it so easy to say, put me here. And then if you want to see my face, I'm here. And on Instagram, and if you want to see the words I throw into the void, Threads and Blue Sky. You'll get wildly different thoughts on both, not depending on the platform, just depending on what I feel like posting at the given moment, because I don't have any sort of content schedule. I just post things.
Okay. I think that's it then. Let's get started tonight. While we're starting this interview, I'm just going to say it now. If you have questions for Sean, start putting those in the chat. We're going to get towards all those at the end of the interview. But if you have questions, start throwing them in. All right, Sean, I need you to take me back. Take me back to the origin. Mm-hmm. You're fresh out of the womb, right? At what point do you first dive into geek life? What is that first thing that little Shawnee gets his hands on?
I think the first thing that I remember, and I know it's a bit of a false memory, but the first thing I remember is the N64, which I actually still have right next to me right now. Playing like the really early Mario Kart and Smash on the N64 because my cousin had gotten a second one on accident and was like, here you are. And we did not N64? Know how it worked. Yeah.
Okay.
Who knows? But like, I would have been about 5. And so like, I know that there was time that I sat there, like as like the, like, especially on Mario Kart, that like opening menu screen just drives around and like, oh yes, I'm succeeding. I'm doing so well. Not even aware you haven't hit start game yet. Which is just one of those things, and then from there, a lot of it stayed through very Nintendo heavy, especially through the Zelda timeline. Like, I know that you have not played one, but I love the entire Zelda timeline. And it's fine. Actually, I had a chat today with 2 other people that have never played a Zelda game when we had to talk about starting a Zelda-themed miniseries, and they're like, oh, by the way, it's for vibes. And I'm like, okay, sure, live your lives, other people. So that's a thing. What else? And then yeah, from there, always like very into reading a lot. Like whenever like one of the Magic School House,
Magic School Bus,
the Magic Tree House books. The Magic Tree House books would come out. Like sit down, get it, and read it through in a night. And then like any sort of like mythology was always super into, and so just kind of grew from like, oh look, this is a small thing that is on the TV, and then we're like, oh, it's very fun to keep doing those, and then getting into tech and seeing how tech grew and going from there, and then seeing how storytelling grew. Was never like, this is my thing I've never done and I'm a bad geek for. Never have seen Lord of the Rings other than the first half of the first movie, and have never read any of the books. So like that whole thing skipped vastly over. So that's my markdown, and people are always upset about that. But oh well. And then yeah, just continued on, got into TTRPGs.
Hold on, let me ask you this. I want to start like at the beginning here. What kind of like drew you in like with Zelda and Nintendo games specifically that kind of like really seemed to be like this touchstone memory in your life that you're still bringing up now?
Yeah, I think with the Zelda games, it was the like, I like the puzzles of them, and I like the way that they're curated to be like, they make you feel smart.
Okay.
Playing the game, like they make you feel like you know what you're doing, which is very exciting, and I think that's part of it. And especially like as that being like the first series I tried out, like it was like, okay, here's a game that rewards creativity without ever really letting you go too far. Like yeah, there was a dungeon or two that I was like 800 directions the wrong way, and just like, I guess if I keep hitting this wall, it'll break one day. Especially with like the original Zelda, that was a monster. Like there's bushes you just need to blow up by putting the bomb at the right bush and hoping it's the right one. Like Jesus. That game was not user friendly. Or the Lost Woods, not good. But like the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask era. Those games are
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm specifically talking about on the N64. So like just being rewarded by it, and also just having the fun time of like, this is something that like is mine, because parents at the time did not understand video games. They were like, okay, cool. My dad had an Atari and was like, yeah, Pong works. And I'm like, yeah, Pong does work. But being able to have that and kind of having it be like my thing. Like I have two younger siblings, but my brother's kind of into them, but not much. My sister's not at all. And so it wasn't like, oh, this is something we all have to share. This is something we have to do. It was like, oh, I found a thing that only I know that makes me feel good when I do it. And I think that's where it really locks in.
Okay. Do you feel like in your storytelling now, I just want to jump forward a little bit. Do you feel like some of the lessons you learned by playing games like Majora's Mask and those sort of things, do you feel like that infects your storytelling? Do you feel like those kind of like that puzzle design and stuff like that kind of feeds into today?
In a way, I think very abstractly, because like when I prep puzzles, I don't prep an ending. I'm like, here is an obstacle. Go forth and solve it.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that sense of being like finding creative solutions and finding that moment that you're like, oh, we were so smart because we got this. I think comes a lot from there. Especially because we've all been in that thing where it's like there's a preset answer for a puzzle and you're like, okay, well, nobody's ever going to get this done because I don't understand the brain of it, which is why I avoid them so much. But I think, allowing a constant sense of that discovery of like, yeah, we did it. We're so cool because we found the answer. I think comes from those like early puzzle dungeons of being like, what happens if I hit this orb 8 times? And like, whoa, that was the answer. So.
Okay. All right. So step me forward a little bit here now. You've kind of dived into geek culture at a young age. You're playing these games. At what point do we start to learn about tabletop games as a genre and start to dive into that?
Yeah, much later. Like 2020.
Wow.
Is when I got into it. Yeah. Partially because never had any exposure to it. Like I was in band my entire life. I'm still a musician, perform regularly in orchestras, but like our band culture was not like, oh, we're gonna know about D&D, we're gonna do this. Our band culture was like, we sit around playing Pokemon together. Everybody had a Nintendo DS. All the band geeks that like had to be at school until 8:30, and by had to be, I mean like could go home and then come back at 8:30 for rehearsal, all stayed after to like play Pokemon together.
Right.
So no one around me was really into them. So it was never really something that I had the exposure for, or never really something I knew about. And even when like Stranger Things was going on, like that was kind of a boon for it. It was like, okay, but I don't watch a lot of shows and I don't watch a lot of movies, and so it's like I never really was like, oh, what is this show about? What can it got from there? And it wasn't until the pandemic that I was just like at home, as one does. And one of the YouTube channels that I enjoyed watching for like their like video game let's plays and stuff had hit their 1 million subscriber mark.
Okay.
And they had promised to some fans at some point, at 1 million we'll do a D&D session. And so they did. And I was like, that's weird. What's that? No, I don't want that. I want the other thing that you have all been doing for a while. And then they kept going with it, and because it was like, okay, I'll give it another chance because we're all sitting at home, whatever. And my roommate and I were watching at the time. We're like, I don't really get what they're doing. Like, what is this? And so then, like on a third pass, then I was like, okay, I like where this is going. And so then, it was September. It was Labor Day of 2020. Was the first time I said to a group of friends, hey, do you guys want to give this a try? And everyone said yes, with nobody having any experience or really knowing what it was. We hadn't even bought a player's handbook by that point. One friend had played in one half of a campaign prior.
Okay.
So she like elected to be the GM because she knew something. And then
I know there's a D20
we had
involved.
no idea. Yeah, and we had no idea about party comp or size of a table or anything. So there were 8 of us all playing our first game together with a GM that didn't know how to run a table. And it was a time. It was fun, and it was a great way to like meet up with our friends every week. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that's like, no, that needed to have been changed, that needed to have been changed, that needed to have been changed. So much of it because of the size. But it was just the intro. So yeah, that's my start.
Okay. So how does that kind of evolve then to where you're enjoying it so much? Like, was there more games that you played, or did it kind of like just that's what we played and now I'm going to jump into APs? What's that journey there to where we kind of like All right, let's put a camera on this. Let's start recording and telling that story.
Yeah. So from there to what would have been November of 23, because that's when we recorded the first episode of our podcast. It launched January of 24, but we recorded in November of 23. Got to see, like, looked at that and went, okay, we are all still very much locked up. It costs like $60 per person to buy a video game that we can all play together, or $40 to buy a new TTRPG module that we can learn. And so from D&D, from there had gotten into like GMing because of how the original jam was like not entirely sure what to do. And my brain is like a sponge for rules. If I read something through, I'm like, okay, I know how it works. And so then I was like, I think I can do maybe better, if not actually for sure better, and started GMing a different campaign with different friends that had wanted to be in that one, and then learned about like Blades in the Dark, had learned about Lasers and Feelings, Adventure Skeletons, like little smaller games that are very different in system. And it's like, oh, this is fun, that this fits a vibe much better than these other things are. Like then D&D is fitting certain things. So getting into there, and then also in 2018, I started grad school for my master's degree and everything. And so this was like something that I was doing constantly throughout grad school. It was like doing this, and then the TTRPGs were my fun little side stuff that like was stress release. And then it got to the point when the pandemic ended, everyone's lives were opening back up, things were getting a lot harder to like schedule because people just had lives again. And some friends were like, oh, we need to get back into playing. We need to get back into playing. Like, we need to get there. The same thing everyone does whenever they want to do something. And then I finished my graduate thesis in August of 23 and officially graduated and went, for the last year, I have been on a tight 2-week schedule of I need to have research done. I need to have papers written. I need to be showing my professors and the board I can be awarded this degree on a 2-week basis every week.
Wow.
And then I was done. And I went, if I don't continue doing something that needs expectation every 2 weeks, I will never do anything again in my life. And so I said to that group of friends that was like, hey, we should just keep doing it. I was like, hey, I have no intention of this going anywhere, but what if we just started recording our games and the concept of a fictional audience made us have the pressure to keep playing together?
Okay.
And I can edit it because I've grown up as a musician. I still perform. I've done a lot of like producing of music stuff. I know how to work Audacity. I can record what we're doing, put it in there and edit it, and then like score it and release it. And whether or not anyone listens, at least we have an idea of like, hey, we have a game and we get to keep playing. And that's it. Just kind of, it wasn't like we want to like do this. It wasn't, oh, we need to have cameras. It wasn't like we have a special story that we need to tell. It was, I need to be doing something. Okay. Do you all want to start a podcast together? And that's where it came from.
So you guys all play in person and record like that?
We record in Discord using Craigbox because 2 of them live in Colorado and then 2 of us live around here.
Okay. So what then drives you to finally post that first episode online?
Having the idea that if I don't post it, there's not somebody that wants to hear the next episode, so it doesn't matter if I get it done in 2 weeks. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So to skip probably a question or two ahead, when people are like, how do you get so much done in a week? If I have a timeline, I will achieve everything in the world. So the fact that I set myself this arbitrary timeline of like, I don't even care if I don't care if like like 2 of our cast are married. If their mom listens, as long as their mom gets to hear the next episode, that means I've done my job. And that was the entire mentality getting into it. Of I will be held accountable by some unseen force out there in the world that wants to hear the next episode, and that's all it is. And that's what I published it, and we went, okay, cool.
So you kind of brought up that you are a musician, and I know you do a bit of composing. Mm-hmm. How do you feel like this? Because is that what you got your master's in? Composing?
My master's is actually in music therapy.
Music therapy, okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there is a crossover in skill that you apply between your composing and your D&D storytelling, or your tabletop storytelling in general?
I don't think there's a crossover when we're playing or when the story is being led or any sort of structure. I think the crossover comes in when I'm doing the scenes. it helps my brain go, okay, this is what I want it to sound like. So then when I get to the editing of it, I can, because I write about 99% of the music for the show.
Oh wow, okay.
Because it's easy. Like, one, I live in constant fear of copyright. And like I have a couple friends that are composers that like people have stolen their work and claimed it as their own, and then they had to do like a whole legal battle to get it back because like the age of the internet, it's so easy to like find a video, download it, and repost it, and it's like some of them aren't good companies at actually protecting the copyrighted work of individuals. And then also one of my undergrad professors taught a course about like 20th century copyright and how to survive, like if you are going to be a composer, how to survive in like the digital age where everything can be spread so quickly. And I had no intentions of being a composer in undergrad. Like I took one comp class because it was required. I have no actual composition training from like a school side. But then I got to the show and I was like, okay, this is going out into the world. What if we use something and someone says that's mine? That's terrifying to me. So I'm going to play it safe and just write everything, which was like a fun musical outlet because like I teach piano on Mondays and Tuesdays. I do work as a music therapist. But, like I want to do something for me. So scoring the show kind of gives me that. And so then that's the real tie-in is as I'm running the session, I can go, okay, like, do I have something in my head that I've already written that fits this scene, or is this something that I'm going to want to write differently? Like, if we ever have a player die, the, like, player death motif has been written for, like, 6 months now.
Oh, wow.
Because I know what I wanted that to sound like, so if someone ever dies, that will be the music that plays. Hopefully it's never seen. I've got no say in it. So, but I think that's more of the crossover is not any sort of like structure wise, but more on the like the production side. My brain goes, yes, we understand this bit now.
You don't see yourself narrating a scene to match the music playing in your head?
No, I do it backwards. Where I'm like, as I narrate it, I'm like, okay, so what would that sound like? Like, what do I need to put underneath to make it work? Is kind of the way.
So what's that process like then? Are you sitting with the scene up? Because I don't know anything about musical composing. What's the word? Composing. I know words good. What does that look like then for you as you're doing this? Because as someone who has no idea how this process works, are you writing the music? Are you just feeling it out in the scene? Like, what's that process look like?
Yeah. Most of the time it's pre-written. There are a couple themes that I have a piano right there, and I have 2 guitars behind it, and then I have a harp and a couple other stuff. That like if I'm like, okay, I don't want this to feel too static, or if it's something that it's not going to loop, I will play it live and record it and then just keep the live file, and then do some like editing to that to see like if I want it to sound different. Like the death theme, for example, has itself superimposed on itself. Okay. So when you hear it, both notes are played at the same time, which gives it more of like an echoey, hollow feel than if it was just basic. But then most of the stuff is I sit down in MuseScore or in Logic or in whatever I'm using and like write out what I actually want. Like if it's MuseScore, write it out like note for note, or I have a couple of like synths that you can plug into the computer and like play it on there and it'll go right in. And then we'll edit those or like do the recordings I have, put them in Logic and like just make it sound good there. But most of the time it's just sit down, think, okay, what do I want this to sound like? What is the scene and what is the inspiration? Like, what does this character do? And like then making sure it can loop. Because I'm not going to write each moment for each thing because that's impossible. So being like, I need it to resolve nicely, but not to the point that like it feels weird that it goes again. Let it resolve and then continue itself on so that it's a good loop.
Okay. So do you find that the process of making the songs for your show is like a process you look forward to, or is it just like, I need to do this for my own self? Like I need to do it like this because otherwise I feel like I would be in trouble. Or is it
That's a hard question.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Luckily, it's gotten to the point where now I'm like, I know we won't get in trouble, mostly through streaming.
Yeah.
And like I've learned how to like on like OBS be like, this goes to the live and this doesn't, and get that stuff worked out. But like streaming so many games of Alice is Missing, like I know that playlist is essentially copyright free, but like you can still get like copyright, like not the strikes, but like the claims, like, hey, we know you use the song and that's perfectly fine, but we know. I like seeing a bit more of it has made me a little less concerned. But then also Monument Studios sent me their entire like sound library when they were doing their like big promo thing. So a lot of the stuff, especially live stuff or the mini series that I'm starting to produce, is using a lot of the Monument Studio stuff because one, then I don't need to write a second script for a second show, and two, it already has a lot of the sounds I would be looking for, so I'm able to put those in. In terms of enjoying it, I do enjoy it, and I don't think I stress about it. The only one that I actually stressed about, I think, was that there was an actual like sung song in one of them that was the in-universe. There's two in-universe characters that are getting married, and it was like the engagement announcement from one to the other at a concert. He was a bard. He performed this song for the people. So I wrote and then recorded and put that song in, and then the melody of it is the town theme only when they're together. So like if the princes aren't together, then the melody is missing and it's just instrumental. If they're together, then the theme that was sung in like episode 14 is in the background instrumentally. So I really like being able to like hide things in there that only I know. Like one of there's a score that's the theme for two brothers who are cursed, and the melody is one consistent melody, but it pans back and forth between the two of them because they always walk side by side. So one track goes to the left ear, one track goes to the right ear, which when it's like super low in the podcast mix, you're not gonna hear. But I know it happens. And then like, so that's I think the fun of it is hiding little things that I either equate to the characters or that I equate to the story, that I equate to the show, that I'm like, okay, nobody's gonna catch this, but I like that it's in there and putting it in. And that's where the fun of it comes from. That's why I haven't been like, oh, I have the Monument tracks, I can use those for the main show. I like doing that for the main show, and so that's why I keep doing it.
So, do you see yourself wanting to lean more into like the musical composure? I'm gonna fuck that up every time. The musical composership of scoring APs, or do you find you enjoy telling the story more?
I think I like telling the story more. I like writing the themes, and I like seeing what other people like. But I think, and this was a question someone else had asked a couple days ago. They're like, "Oh, do you want to like specialize in one aspect of it?"
Yeah.
Especially because when people are like, "Oh, what's your goal for the year? What's your goal for this? What's your goal for this?" Like, do you want to like specialize in production? Do you want to specialize in editing? Do you want to specialize in performing? And I'm like, I like doing it all.
Yeah.
And I know that if I did specialize, I could get so much better at one of them. But I like having like, I like being part of all of it, and that's also why like Help Action Need is a solo team, because it's like part of it. I also like, I could get an editor, but then they would not edit how I want it, so then I'd have to be like, no, you're wrong. So part of it is the creative control, but then part of it is also just like on the production end, it's so fun hearing your friends when like before it goes live. It's so fun listening back and like, oh, we are a fun people. Or like on the casting side, I like being able to reach out to people and say, hey, would you be interested in something? So I don't think I would ever want to like make that my like main thing, but I have a couple channels that have been like, hey, can you like, and I'm never going to score a whole AP for anyone because that is so much work, but people have been like, hey, can you write the themes for our show? Or we have these houses that are all entering a tournament, can you write like the fanfares that each nation would sound like? And I love doing like that sort of like thematic work and leitmotifs, which are like little like the Darth Vader thing, like you know when Darth Vader's entering a scene because you hear his theme in the background. That's a leitmotif for anyone that doesn't know. I like being able to do that kind of short little like 10-15 second work,
little stinger
that
plugs
is only heard for like that short bit, but like is so tied to the world and the characters that like you do it like that, you know, because if it's like if I'm writing the background stuff for something that's not a show I'm invested in, it's gonna sound like basic background work. Where if I can write character themes, if I can write show themes, that's the stuff I like doing because it's more like it's a little bit that's impactful and it sets people up, and that's the part I like.
Okay. And how it just if that's something you're looking to kind of like reach out into and do a little bit more of, how do you recommend people reach out to you to kind of like approach you about hiring you for work?
Instagram or Discord. I don't know. If you do, if you, this is if you're reaching out to Sean for anything, have a specific timeline. Like
I need this whenever.
People that are like, hey. Well, it's like if you do that, that's fine. But people are like, oh, can you like, do you want to join a project? Maybe we'll do something like sometime in March. I'm like, no, I cannot do sometime in March. I need to know the 3 days at the exact times in March because I need to put it on my calendar. Otherwise, we all know what happens. Or like other people are trying to schedule around that. I'm like, oh, I think I need to keep this day open. Maybe I'll get back to you. So anything I need, like that's something I tell people all the time. Is like, I'm happy to be on anything. You need to tell me when, and not sometime in March. No, I need to know Wednesdays in March. Like I
Yeah.
need that. So if you're gonna reach out, let me know when the project is premiering or like when you would need it by, so that I can slot it into my head of when it can get done by. Because that's part of it. It's like I'm happy to do it, but if I don't have the time for it, I'm gonna be very upfront about it.
Yeah.
I'm not someone that's going to like burn myself out to help other people meet their goals.
Right.
It'll be like, oh, can you do this? Nope, I'm busy.
Yeah. That's fair.
So.
Okay. So let's push the clock forward a little bit more now here. You've kind of launched Help Action Needed, and you're seeing success with that. You're growing the channel. You're coming to where you are today. Where do you kind of like begin to reach out? And because you are, like I said with Taylor as well when I had her on, I know you're part of like this crew of people that are just appearing on everything, it seems like. How is that kind of like grown into this space where like you're appearing on different channels, you're doing these different things? What's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, so I do think it started with Castleton for sure, because that was a spot like a bunch of people just met, regardless of like if you were in it a lot, regardless of if you were the first character to die. Hello, I died. Regardless of anything.
Spoilers!
I'm
only on episode 3.
Of people. Jenna, we die in 4. I wasn't. I thought we died in episode 3. So like part of it was just like suddenly a bunch of people that didn't know each other had a space to know each other, or a bunch of people that had thought like, oh, maybe I'll reach out to them one day, but I don't know how, had a connection to reach out for. And that's like a spot where, like, credit to that for sure, but I don't really think that's where it started. I think where it started was, for me at least, in my perception of it, is on Starcrawl RPG, which, shout out to them. If you don't know them, they are Maz's TTRPG channel. So Maz has It's Mozzarella, or Mozzarella on Twitch, which is the 3 L's, is her like streaming channel, and then has a TTRPG channel that the first AP they ever put together was me, Keon, Taylor, and Cosmic.
Okay.
And like Keon, Taylor, and I just vibed so hard in that then it's been like, oh, you know this person? Cool. I can meet this person. You know that person? Cool. And like Taylor has so many connections, as I'm sure you all talked about. Like Taylor just loves talking to people. And so like if you give Taylor a chance to market, Taylor is going to market, and she is amazing at it. But then her being like, yo, you need to be better about marketing yourself. And I'm like, objectively, no, I don't do that. I don't know how. And she's like, well, you're gonna, and I'm gonna teach you. So Taylor was a huge catalyst of it, both in like because not like back then, it was like, I would not send a Discord message being like, hello, would you like to be on my channel? I would be like, you are an entity that I have not communicated with. We do not exist. But now that I've done a lot, but especially Taylor being like, no, reach out. The people want to be asked. Like, people want to do things. Huge shout out to her for getting me going on that. And then from there, just kind of like, the TTRPG Collective is one. My first ever live stream game at all was in a charity game set up for Extra Life last year.
Okay.
And it was just someone posted in the collective like, hey, I'm trying to get people for this fundraiser. Is anyone interested? And I was like, I've never been on a stream before, but hello, I would try. And they went, cool. Like, you're in here. You clearly have some sort of credibility. Come on our stream. And I went, okay. And then after that went, wow, streaming's not scary. I mean, it is. It's terrifying every time, but in a very different way than I would have imagined. And then a friend of mine, she has had her own streaming channel, like playing not TTRPGs, just video games for years now. And she always like, oh, Sean, you would love it. You'd be good at it. You should do it. And I was like, no, I will not do that. And then in June of this year, July of this year, I don't remember. It was one of the summer months this year. Cloudkill Connor, if you know him, was told by Clem, hey, you need to get streaming. You need to do it now. And Connor was like, nah, I don't need to. And Clem was like, you're doing it. And so Connor and I just kind of joked about like, you know what? Why don't we just do it together? So like, he would do some and I would do some. And then just because of, and this is where the Castleton thing really helped a lot, because of that community and being like, hey, we're all here. Like we both got affiliate within like a week.
Yeah.
Of just existing, and then suddenly like people were in the streams, people were following. It's like all the metrics worked, and then since then, it's like, oh, look, I have the real check mark, so people that I don't know as much can be like, oh, you clearly have people, and then
Right.
that's helped a lot with reaching out as well. And then on the back end, people reach out to me. I don't know why. I don't know how they find me, but people will be like, "Hey, we saw you in this sort of thing," or "Hey, like we heard about you. Can you be in a game?" And then if I'm free, I'll be like, "Yeah, can you tell me more about it?" Because like I'm a huge proprietor of like knowing who's at the game, knowing what you're doing before. Yes, whenever I reach out for casting, I like typically reach out one at a time, and like as we add people, like, is everyone okay with this person? Is everyone okay with this person? And I know it's a lot slower than if I just put out like who wants to do a thing. But it's partially why I've never released a casting call, because I just go very slowly with it. And then yeah, just people in that, and as you get more people that are willing to do it, they'll also be like, oh, actually, like this person would be great for this, or oh, I'd love to have this person on, and then just meeting people that way, and then you hang out with them. One's like, oh, you need to come do a thing, and it's just how everyone kind of always wants to just be doing things with each other.
Yeah.
It snowballed at an extremely rapid pace from like June. It was like March, first ever live stream. June, the channel existed, and then in September, I think it was, I think it was like four. It was 2 of the weeks I had 4 streams a week, and it was just like this. Yeah, the speed at which it went, like from I made a little show to, oh my god, Sean's face is appearing places.
So
is wild.
was that all on your channel? You're doing 4 shows a week?
No, guesting other places.
Guesting on other places. Okay.
In like this last year, in terms of TTRPGs, my channel didn't produce all that much. I was guesting a lot more. That's something I'm doing this year, is a lot of like, and part of it is just time.
Yeah.
Like I can't commit so much time, and especially like the other thing is now like, whoever you are, people have started subbing to my channel, which is wild, and I don't understand. Thank you tremendously. Don't get it. But it's like, okay, well now I have people that are like actually wanting to watch things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that step back and honor that, and I'm going to put a lot more on mine. But what was the first actual play on my channel? Let me check this real quick. I know it's on YouTube, because I export everything to YouTube. Even if I never release it, it's there. Most of it was guesting on other people's channels, though.
Okay. So let me ask you this while you look that up. Do you feel like guesting on these other channels has been more productive for you professionally in this space than running shows on your own channel and bringing people to you?
I think in terms of getting started, yeah. Like having, like especially, and again, like bringing it back to Maz and Taylor, as a lot of this is going to come back, like we now have a really good, like we stream together frequently, so like we know who's from each other's chat and everything, but also now like people will hop into my chat that are part of Taylor's community, or people will hop into like Maz's chat that I see from my community, and like we've kind of just like built it that way. But then also, like, one of the first, like, guest spots I did for a long thing was on Kate's channel of Don't Kill My Character. Yeah. And so, like, meeting some of, like, Kate's, like, TTRPG people there. Or then, like I said, yeah, like, the first, like, long-form actual play that I did being that Blades in the Dark came on Starcrawl, meeting a bunch of great people through Starcrawl, because that's Maz's other channel, so Maz was able to bring people there. So, yeah, having been a guest, like, because I had been GMing for a while, but having been a guest player a lot, just let me do a lot more, because then I'm not sitting there being like, oh, I need to get this stream ready, I need to get this stream ready. And that's my life now. But if that was my life at the start, I would have stopped. I would have been like, okay, this is way overwhelming, I don't know what I'm doing. The first Gloria and Janelle yell at me for this still. The first OBS scene I had for an actual play had 60 elements to it, because I did not know about how to do things in Canva. I know. I'm aware. I have been talked at, but I didn't know how to do things in Canva. So it was like the background was there, and then the camera was there, and then the cover was there, and then the nameplate was there, and then like for a table of 7 people, had every element layered in OBS by itself.
See, but I prefer that, because I don't like it when it's when I can't move stuff around on OBS. I don't like a set static background. Like right now, I can move our frames, and I prefer that ability of control as opposed to just like a background.
Well, this was all meant to be static, so it didn't need to move, and it ended up being 60 things. And I was also at the time running everything off of my MacBook Air.
I can see that being a problem.
Didn't enjoy. Yeah. So the first, and I didn't realize that this was the first thing that I ever had run. The first thing I ever ran on the channel was Crushes and Cryptids, a game by Rain of Hampod. And it was like, oh, I've been wanting to run it, and like I had done a couple things for other people of like, just because like I have a bunch of friends that are amazing game writers, like game devs and stuff,
Yeah.
and they're like, hey, do you want to like run this game or something? And I'd done it on the podcast as a couple things, but I was like, podcasts are so much work because you have to edit it, you have to record it, you have to like, it's doing a live stream is half the work of doing like that. And so doing that, it was then where did I go? Oh, yeah, so I was like, yeah, I can do this, and I had done a lot of guesting with them. Like I had done a couple things for like even footing games. I had done a couple things for Hampod, and I had done a couple of things like just people in that space. And so I was like, hey, I want to run this, and I'm going to learn how to do a stream. Here we go. I think the first actual stream I had done, which we're going to get Jenna more things to hype Jenna about, was I think our Ghost Chat, Jenna, with me, you, and him. I think that was the first ever stream that like we ran that wasn't me just sitting down and playing a game. And so then from there, getting being like, okay, I know how to run Twitch now. I know I can do this. I've been doing it on other people's channels as a guest GM. Let me just do it on my own. And so we did that Crushes and Cryptids game, and then from there, it's been like a couple of other smaller things, and then people are like, oh, can we come on, or can we do this? And then especially with the Alice's Missing games, which are now running on the channel about once a month, have just kind of like gotten a lot of people in because it's so, well, one, it's so easy to run, but two, everyone wants to learn it, that they're just getting in there and doing it. And so this year, like even already we've had one Alice's Missing game on the channel. We've had Under the Autumn Strangely. We were supposed to have something tomorrow, but that had to get canceled. We have a game of Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast coming up. We had another one that I'm forgetting, and I feel bad that I'm forgetting. So we have 5 that were streamed this month, but then also the game that we're recording on Sundays, our Witches game, is going to be live on the channel in March. And so like it's just been a whole month of like production and everything. Like, okay, let's get this going, let's get it in here, so that like the channel itself can kind of like stand on its own legs of like, hey, here we are. This is a channel that I exist.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, look at me on my channel, not look at me everywhere else.
Okay. So. Do you find yourself pre-recording a lot of your stream content, or do you find it the other way around?
I keep them really separate. Like the streams, the most I do to anything is export to YouTube, and that's all I do on the back end. Partially because I have tried to edit streams in the past, and they're not easy. Partially because when you do a podcast, you can do so much sound checking for the room you're in and for like the exact audio. When you do it on a stream, that changes a lot. There's also a lot of elements that get cut out. There's also like if someone's mic is acting up, you can't stop in the moment and fix it. So like it's just, I know you can do it. I don't have the time or the energy to do it. So if it's a stream, it doesn't get touched and it goes onto YouTube, but it doesn't get touched in terms of like production. And then the only things that I've done now, video-wise, our Christmas special. We want the cast of my podcast are not people in the actual play space. They like do the podcast and like, this is what we like doing. Maybe this year I'll get them to do a bit more. But they're like, we like our little boxes. We like living here. We're very comfortable with what we're doing, and we enjoy the amount of production we do in the show. And so, but they were like, we want to have our faces on a thing, but we don't want to do a live stream. So we did our Christmas special was pre-production.
Okay.
Which like we set it all up and we recorded it into OBS with the caveat for them being, you can't mess up as much, and also you can't ask 100 questions, and the ones that are married have a child, you need a babysitter, because we cannot, like, I'm fine editing out all of that, but we can't, I'm not doing that on a video. It's much harder. And so that was the first thing into recording and everything. And then took a jump from that to now the series that we're recording, which will be coming out in March, doing a full 7-episode run of like a fully like has overlays, scenes move around.
Oh, wow.
It looks real, and that's a huge part of Gloria at Glow Pinksta, is helping me co-produce it, because she is amazing at video editing.
Okay.
And she has this philosophy of like, because she guests at a lot of spaces and she runs her charm party thing now, but she's like, there's a huge expectation in the space that the GM needs to do everything. And she's like, it's not fair for you to like prep the game, run the game, record the game, and then do all the work to edit the game. and I just sit here, especially
Yeah.
because she's like, and she is like, video editing is her thing that she does really well. So she's like, let me do the video stuff and you can do the audio, which has worked out great because now like what would have taken me, like I would probably be, we recorded the first 2 on Saturday. I'd probably be halfway through 1 already by now.
Mhm.
She has both of the first 2 episodes completely edited and the
Wow.
first one is already finished being scored. So like having this production partner through her has made this extremely easy in a way that I would not have been able to do by myself.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's your goal then for this year, is to kind of like work into doing more video content, more production content on Help Action Needed. What is like your big goal then for what you see Help Action Needed getting to at the end of this year?
Yeah, I don't have one, and people are always baffled by that answer because
No, I
mine's
get
like
it.
the whole thing is I like playing games with my friends, and I like that I have accidentally gotten people to come and watch it,
Mhm.
and so really the goal is just keep doing that, and also I like showing off like people that I really like, and I'm like, no, people need to talk about you more. I try and get them on a lot because then it's like I know how good you are, and I want people to see that. And it's not at all like I'm their first foray. I don't have anyone that's been like fully new, but it's
Mhm.
just like I enjoy spending time with you, and I want more people to know that you're here as well. Let's do a thing together. Or on the back end is we all want to play a game together and have no time. Let's schedule something for May. So
Yeah.
like right now I have a game set for May because that was the first time the 4 of us are all together.
Yeah.
Um, and so like both the end of like, hey, you're a good friend of mine. Let's get you like, let's just do more things together that people can see. But then also like, you are people I really enjoy, except we're all extremely busy. I have my own channel that I can throw things on. Oh, and then the other thing that I guess is part of the goal, not so much my goal, but I guess and it's kind of mine, is that I open it up to a lot of other people. Like I don't have like any rule of like I need to be the only GM or I need to be the only person that proposes games. Like I tell people all the time, like if you have a game you want to run but you need to put it somewhere, reach
Yeah.
out to me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like Mika has a couple games that Mika's going to run on the channel or has run already. Oh, that was the other game I'm forgetting on the 29th, 30th, sometime at the end of January. We're playing a game of Guy Fieri's Bisexuals. That was the other game I was forgetting.
Okay.
Um,
What is this game?
so like, we are monsters that have invited onto human Guy Fieri's show for humans to compete in a cooking competition, a dating competition, or to sabotage the others. And it's a one-page RPG that Mika had found and been like, I want to put this somewhere. But like Roll D5 is so structured and they have so much going on that, and like I've told so many people, like if you want to run a game, like just reach out. Like
Yeah.
again, have a date in mind, or I will give you like these are the 5 dates to choose from. And if we're free, we can make it work. And it's like Mika's done that. Jordan from Goose Scoop Games is going to run a game on the channel. And we just like have like this like nice open door policy of guest GMs, which also brings in a bunch of people. Because then if you're bringing in a game that you want to run, you probably know people you want to run it for.
Mhm.
And just continue growing it like that way of being like, this is just an open space that people can use to put out whatever they want. I'm going to be doing my thing, and as long as we can schedule you around there, hey, it's just like for that day, it's your channel as much as it is mine, which is kind of like a paying it back to like community people. Because in that first year, when we were talking about guesting, like on HamPod's channel, I had run like a game of it was You Awakened in a Strange Place, and like they always were like, yeah, you're like the first guest GM we had on the channel.
Wow.
Imagine If has given me the channel a couple times to be like, hey, like, can you run a game because like I am busy and or like I want to play with you or something. So like I've had enough people reach out to me and be like, hey, can you guest GM for us? And so I'm just like, yeah, like if anyone wants to come guest GM here,
Yeah.
reach out and do it. And that's like I think that's something I would like is just having more people know that that's an option.
Mhm.
Still like I have vetting processes for the channel, and I have like I make sure that tables are like nice and diverse and stuff, which is nice because people started commenting on that, and like I'm glad that the representation of others is being seen there. But so like that still very much holds in. So if someone's reaching out like, can we do this table of white guys? No, end of discussion. But if people reach out with like the understanding of hey, if it fits for the channel, it fits. I always love having people on.
Good. Okay. So then what is, I know you've already kind of touched on it. Is there any people that you haven't worked with yet? Because you've worked with a fuck ton of people, I know. Is there anyone you haven't worked with yet that you're really looking forward to, like maybe potentially collaborating with in the future and kind of either GMing for or being GM'd by?
There's a couple of There's people for sure. Some of the first ones that come to mind is like one of the ones that's scheduled really far out is Janelle and I are finally playing a game together.
Okay.
We have done one thing that was we co-GM'd a Bahamut versus Tiamat battle on Somebody's Heroes,
Yeah.
another channel that like I've been able to like guest GM on. But we've never played a game together other than running that stream together. And so like she and I are going to be doing one of our Alice's games. Forever GM Justin is going to be doing one, is like going to be in one of them. Classic Sam NYGM. I'm going to be in a game with her on Saturday, and then she'll be in one. It's like and that's like those Alice games are a lot of how I'm getting so many people, because it's like it's very easy to learn, and like it's a game lots of people want to play. So a lot of the people that don't have time to commit to a long-term campaign, or don't have time to even do like a 4-part mini-series or something, I'm getting to like spend time in a game with them through those systems, which has been really fun to see. And they're like some of the people for sure. Who else are some of the people that I want to do more with? There are a lot, but of course, now that you ask, my brain does not exist anymore. Yeah, but yeah, I think a lot of it is also like, I think a lot of the people I'm going to want to do is I haven't had a like connection or have a chance to meet them with yet, because a lot of the people I'm like, oh, I want to play a game with them, has worked out, or like Taylor knows them, or like someone else knows them that we can like just keep pairing people up with. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm excited for those like later year Alice games, because that's a lot of the people that I've done like a game or so. Like Justin and I are in the Raven Court together, but like the Raven Court is so like here, and like we've had 2 scenes together total across like whatever amount of episodes we've recorded. So like just like in that vein, like Justin and I have done stuff together, Janelle and I have done stuff together, Sam and I have done, Candace and I have done stuff together, but like giving us more of a focus of things there. A Black Sparrow is someone I really want to do stuff with, and I've gotten them locked in for a game of Under the Autumn Strangely. Vidi, who I don't remember their full name, is a content creator with the Eldritch Scribe. Did a I guested with Catchy Cantrips, which is one of their like they're one of the main cast on Catchy Cantrips, and just like we talked about our mentality towards gaming and everything. Like, oh, we need to talk more. So I want to reach out to Vidi about something, and that's a lot of it. Is it's like I don't really think of it as like, oh, you're someone in the space that's cool and has a rep. It's like, oh, you're someone I had a fun talk with.
Yeah.
That's what like I'm not drawn to like people that people should know.
Right.
I'm like, oh, we had a fun talk. I want to focus this relationship, and that's kind of why it's hard to say anyone, because most of the people I've been able to get something going with.
Okay, so let me ask you this then: what is your dream table, and what system are you playing?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Don't say Taylor, Meadow, and Maz.
I won't. I don't know. The system is the hard part for me. I mean, both questions are really hard. I think if we have to, I'll limit it to a table of like 4, because that's an easy table, and also it's there. If we're thinking like people that are larger named, like Johnny Chiodini, they're a creator in the UK. They're the GM that got me into knowing how D&D worked. So I think if I ever have a chance, it'd be very fun to be like, hello, you are the person that introduced me to this entire thing. And they also seem like a lovely person, just in everything that they create. They seem very nice. So that would be a nice little pay it back. Danielle Radcliffe seems very fun. If we're thinking like big, like energy, bringing stuff to a table, Danielle Radcliffe seems very fun. Same with like Erika Ishii, same energy. And then, yeah, I'm not allowed to say Maz, Taylor, and Meadow, but they're so good, and I love having them around things. I don't know. I think, yeah, I'll go with those 3. And then in terms of system, what would be a fun system? I love indie games that hurt. And I feel like if we're doing that table, it could easily get to indie games that hurt.
Yeah.
So maybe... Well, actually, I'm not going to go with hurt in so much a way. I think Dread would be very fun if we did something like that with Dread.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that. That'll be my answer.
Who's GMing that table?
Oh, I forgot there's a GM for that game. Someone that's good at horror. Who's good at horror? Some of my favorite horror people. I mean, Johnny Talking XP is great at horror with Candela. So is GM Justin. Either of them would be great to do that with. Oh, I think I would want to include Rara on there.
Okay.
Just for like a similar vibe of like the existential dread. That like we've never done a game together and we haven't talked about doing anything together, but they're just someone that like everything they make amazes me. And I've said so many times, like my favorite like audio experience of last year was listening to A Place as Beautiful as This on A Heart as a Dungeon. Like it just I like soundscaping and story and like plot, and it just had such an amazing combo of all of that together, especially the soundscaping. So to get you something with Rawa would be great. But back to who would be GMing it. Let's go with Johnny. Johnny's great at horror. It'd be fun. Yeah.
Okay. So we are getting ready towards the end of this, but I do want to ask you, because one of the first things you said to me when we met was like, "Oh, I loved being the sad boy character of when I play a game." So I want to ask, what about telling emotional stories resonates with you so much that is like a core function of your or a key feature of your storytelling style?
Yeah. I think what I would have said is I get typecast as a sad boy, because and this isn't answering your question. I'll get to your question, but this is like a side point. I don't consider many of my characters sad.
Okay.
Like I consider them as like complex individuals living in the world that they're alive in, which for most people reads as sad, because most people watching a game of any kind are like, oh, any character in this should be like, I'm here to save the world, I'm here to be great, I'm here to make friends, and any deviation from that, people so quickly jump to, oh, they're sad.
Okay.
Which is like fair. Like, and one of the like earliest examples I saw with this was like Curious in Castleton. Like he was only ever made to support the people around him. He was never made to like he didn't have like grand plots or anything. He was meant to be a support character. And because most of his scenes were focused on keeping others in line or telling them how to act, everyone was like, oh, he's so sad inside because he's like, that's how he's doing. It's like, no, like he is the head of a church and his job is to keep the people around him working. Of course he's going to point out when people are out of line, but everyone was like, no, he's so sad. I'm like, what? And then like you see a bunch of the other cast that are all like making these like large over the top characters with plots. I'm like, okay, I guess that's there. But what I love about creating sad or complex characters is part of it is because I work in mental health, and there's not a lot of good mental health representation in the world. So that's part of it is just like, and also like part of it is that the TTRPG community is so open about that, about like people like have mental health experiences, that it's a spot where characters can be made, and then it's also a spot that I feel like a lot of people can see a character in themselves and resonate with it. Like if you're only ever playing like Fluffy the Exciting Unicorn who's going off on grand unicorn adventures, that's fun, but it gets boring. If you're like seeing a character that's like playing through something or like living through something that they're like, I am aware how much it hurts that character to keep going, but they're still doing it for the people around them, that one gives me a character motivation, and then two also shows off like just my favorite part of it is like knowing I like watching, I don't want to say I like watching them break, because most of the time they're pre-broken.
Yeah.
I like watching them heal through what they're doing, which is something that I think comes across as sad when it's really just like, it's growth. It's not sad, but
Right.
people say it is. So yeah, it's like the like process of watching the characters repair themselves and the people around them is what I really like about those sort of characters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're getting towards the end here. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to our the last few questions, which we always ask our guests. What has been kind of a pivotal moment or turning point in your journey so far that has kind of shaped the way you create content?
Yeah, I think the first thing that's changed, like how I shape it and create it. I had thought of an answer earlier when you told me that you'd be asking this. Something that existed in thing. I think part of it was like seeing my friends doing the like, and not my friends being Moz, Taylor, Meadow, like friends in general in the space, doing very like human streams of TTRPGs, because so much of what you see is like these mass-produced, over-the-top, everything's edited to a T, everything is amazing, and like there's so much production that goes into it that like every second matters. But then a couple of like the streams I guested on, and just a couple of like the people whose channels I watched, like were blank white overlay in the back with like 4 cameras that had nothing around them, and then in chat were the names.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like there was nothing lost on a story being told that way, because if a story is good, it can carry itself without the hyper editing.
Right, right.
And so seeing that and being like, okay, I don't like, every Twitch stream does not need to be a powerhouse of editing. A Twitch stream can just be me going live and saying, hey, hi, what's going on? Or if I'm doing a TTRPG stream, hey, we're 4 people and we're playing a game together. And like, I think that like seeing the people that I enjoyed their stories not caring about how it looked helped me get through the mindset of streaming is scary and is impossible and is a lot of work. So I think that's a huge one. And then the other thing that I think would be like helping like with that mindset change was just like would have been like the first time that I did my solo streams there. I was playing Dark Souls 3 because the From Software games are my comfort games, and people are always like, what do you mean by that? Because it's baffling. But like, I know those games and I know those worlds inside out. And also, I think those, for your Zelda question, I think those inform how I tell stories far more than the games I grew up with. Because like, if you look at the story of like, especially 1 or 3, for Dark Souls 1 or 3, they are the stories of a world that is meant to be ending, that people are trying too hard to keep going for their own self-interest. And the protagonist is not there to make any moral choices. The protagonist is just there to live their life. But also, the gameplay loop is that it's a challenge that seems impossible until you learn it. And then once you learn it, you're able to beat it. And you're like, okay, cool. And then the next one. So it's a game that never stops teaching you how to play the game. Which, like, when people are like, oh, it's too hard. They are hard. But every From Software game is trying to teach you how to play it, and they stop being hard when you accept that the game is helping you by killing you in that one hit. Because then you know, oh, dodge to the left, and then you dodge to the left, and then you can get a hit in, and then they turn around. And you're like, okay, well now like you learn it very much, and I think that also ties to music. You learn it very much, like, oh, they're gonna do this, and this is the thing. Like you just kind of track it out. Same thing with Nier Automata, another game I love. Huge boss battles that are very demanding, and some of those ones go on for like half an hour. Or like the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake, that final boss fight I think is like 45 minutes, and it's like at that point too much. Put in checkpoints. Let me save mid-fight, because what if I have responsibilities? But yeah, but getting back to like the From Software ones, like they're and like one, they're like learning, but then also the worlds are not meant to be hopeful, but they're also not meant to feel oppressive. They're meant to be a world that has been lived in and is actively dying or not dying, depending on which game you're playing. And that's a lot of like my world building. The main podcast show, it's set 60 years after a war that had wrecked everything. Like they were all having problems, then a war happened. 60 years later, our story takes place with like some timeline inconsistency. People will be like, Sean, your timeline's not entirely accurate. I'm like, neither was L.F. Bombs when he wrote The Wizard of Oz. There are so many inconsistencies in there. If he can become one of the famous authors, I don't care. But the world itself, like, it's not a world that's doomed, but it's also not a world where everyone feels hopeful. It's like a lived-in world that has the consequences of what has happened, and that's where I like to go from with there, in terms of world building. So I think those, but then to answer the other part of the original question before I side tangent, doing that as a stream, because it was a game I was comfortable with. And like, if you want to get into streaming anyone, like start with a game you know. Don't be like, oh, this is a game that's trending, I don't know it. Because it's something I know I can play the game and talk at the same time. And it's also a game I knew if I die, I don't care. Yeah. Like, I'm not pressured to play it well. If anyone in chat is like, you're doing bad, I'm like, and you're not here doing it, what's your point? It's just a game I know well enough that I could sit down, talk to people in chat that were entities beyond the void, because the only thing in front of me was this wall. Yeah. And then get comfortable with the process of being online by myself with my face. And that was another huge turning point.
So I want to go back a little bit and ask you, because you brought it up and you said that it's influencing the way that you tell stories. Do you think your want to tell emotional, in-depth character stories through your personal characters, do you see that translating into the worlds you build as well? Like, I feel like you've already kind of touched on that.
100%.
But what about that then makes you want to tell those kind of stories?
Yeah, and part of it's just that they're ones that I like. Like, even before content, before anything, my senior year of high school, I took a creative writing class because I had I had a free period, and it was like, oh, you can have a period where you either just like go home for an hour, or like you can work in the office for unpaid labor,
Fun.
or there's like you could just take a random elective. And so I took ceramics and I took creative writing. Um, and even then, I knew that like I enjoyed stories that didn't have happy endings, and I enjoyed stories that were just like sitting with them was hard, but it was fun.
Hmm.
Like that was a lot of the books that I read. A bunch of my favorite artists are people like musical artists are people that have like different mental health things that they talk about or topics or like their own diagnoses. One of my favorite lyrics ever is by Julian Baker from the song Shadowboxing, and it's I'm gonna get it wrong probably, but the line is like you can't even imagine how much it hurts to think how I feel all the time. Like the thing of like anyone that hasn't experienced whatever they think is the worst in a moment, it's like no, that's what we live every day.
Yeah.
So like your tragedy is our reality. Get over it, essentially, but in a kinder way. And so back to that creative writing class, like that was just where I was like, I knew where my head lived, I knew where my storytelling lived, and so I was like, I'm just going to do this, and it became a game in the class of how far into the story would Sean make it before it went sad. And it was never like in an intentional way, it was never in a forced way, it was just always like the natural telling of it. And I ended up, this is a fun thing, and I don't know state of Illinois, you tell us if it's still an award, but I ended up winning an award at one of the state writing competitions on accident because the school's writing team were like, we need more submissions. Like the writing club can't get enough out. Creative writing class, you all need to submit something. I'm
Okay.
like, okay, whatever. There's like 20 of us. They needed like 15 more submissions. We can each just put in like one submission each, whatever. And I submitted a like 5-page story. It was really short, and it was like a prompt based story where it was like the assignment was write a story from this line, and the first line for everyone that wrote it was they opened the box and didn't recognize what was inside. And so that, and the content warnings for parent loss or child harm or anything like that, if you got that. The story I wrote was the story of 2 children that were like 4 and 5, not knowing why everyone was sad and why their mom was dead. It's like them at their mother's funeral, surrounded by faces that didn't recognize them, surrounded by all of that. And I just submitted it on a whim because I liked it. And they announced at the show, they're like, and now we have to make a new category because this story needed something and none of us knew what to do with it. And I was like, oh, that's exciting. And they announced, and they're like, we have a new category for most emotionally churning story. And I was just like, oh, that's a fun little thing. And then they're like, for this guy. And I was like, oh wait, shit, that's me. And it was just like my senior year, had never taken a writing class, had just like done it. And like won this thing of like, was it like the most well written? No. Was it the like most grammatically structured? No. Was it the one that a table of like professional authors all went, this one made us feel something?
Yeah.
And none of the other ones did, to the point that they made a new award for it.
That's amazing.
I think that kind of locked in like early Sean mine. Like not early because I was like 19, 18,
Right.
however old I was, but like early in terms of storytelling, like it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
And people aren't always going to like it, but people are going to feel from it, and
Yeah.
that it's okay to feel. And so then bringing that now into like, do I bring it into my worlds? Absolutely. Parts of it are like, there are people, like there's one of the stories is people that are cursed to the point that like they're brothers that can live forever. And the only way that they can die is that the older brother, who's the one that saved his younger brother by accidentally cursing him, has to say, okay, I'm ready to lay down now. And he has to choose when both of them stop living now. Or there's people in the, like one of them is like supposed to be the head paladin in the church, but has learned about all the crime that they're doing. So he is like having a crisis of faith of like, can I trust what I've been meant to believe, or do I have to do this? Which I know people have written in like, you've nailed church trauma, which was not my intention, but it's like, I know this is out there. I'm just going to make that part of his story. And so it is like back to the thing I was saying, like telling stories that hurt but resonate with people.
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy doing, and people have told me I do a decent job of it. So I'm going to keep going with it.
Okay. Oh, all right. That was heavy. We're gonna move on to our last question here because this has been an amazing interview.
Yeah.
I want to know, what kind of message or impact do you hope to leave on the geek space through your content?
Yeah, I think a huge part of it is more openness and more willing to talk about what people are going through. I think we do a huge masking of so much, especially with like different like world events going on that people feel like they need to fit a shape or something. And like for safety, a lot of times people do, but like knowing that it's okay to feel that, but it's also okay to do something about it. Knowing that it's not that you can't be quick to like diagnose people, because there's a huge thing in the world, especially in the TTRPG space, but in the world in general, people will be like, "Oh, I think you have this disorder, this disorder, this disorder," which is for some people it's helpful to get a diagnosis, but it's also terrible like over justification. Especially like I have a like not a medical degree as in a doctor, but I work as a medical professional and I can't diagnose. I can just write a letter to like higher up psychiatrists that can say I believe they might need this.
Mm-hmm.
So like a space of like showing what different mental health looks like to help people recognize it, but also always saying just because you recognize it in someone does not mean you should tell them they have something, especially like people that go around that are like have like autism or ADHD and then tell every one of their friends, "Oh, you also have ADHD." No, no, no. We do not diagnose our friends here.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. But then also just a spot that like at the end of the day, it should be fun. There are a lot of times that people like need, and part of it is like we all like games, so people try and gamify everything, or people trying to win everything, or people are trying to make it like I am doing the most so that this works and it works and people have a lasting impression. My impression, like my thought on it is like I'm going to have fun, and if people enjoy it, let the like joy they get from it also be the lasting impression there. So bringing in a spot where people can feel comfortable, but also just knowing it's okay to be yourself and just do what you want to do and don't worry about what everyone else is saying.
Amazing. All right, that is going to bring us to the end of the interview. We are going to open it up to anyone that has questions. I know Jenna has posted a metric fuck ton of questions here, and we're going to get to them all. Yeah. But for now, we're going to dive into our dicey question segment. These are 20 random questions determined by dice roll. So, Sean, I need you to give me a dice roll.
That's a 13. My favorite number.
Favorite version or depiction of time travel?
Interesting. Because I hate time travel as a concept. Favorite version or depiction? I think so. This is not. I don't know if it's intended to be time travel or anything, and it's not a movie I necessarily enjoyed, and it's not a movie I think about. So I'm not sure why it really came to me right now. But in that, what was it called? The Elementals, the Marvel movie about like the Sentinel people that were like space robots and like, what's that movie called?
Eternals?
Yeah, that's whatever it's called. I think it's that. I like the idea of like time travel being things that just exist beyond and are able to like intervene when needed. And in that one, I like that they showed the humanity of it, but like that, like the eternal watcher that can step whenever. And like I imagine if I had watched Doctor Who, something like that would maybe fit. But I've only seen like one episode of Doctor Who in my life. But yeah, I think that's it, because it's like you still get to travel through time, you still get to intervene, but it's not like because I don't like the time loop stories of like you need to like go back and then you need to fix it and then you need to fix it again. I really like Deathloop. Deathloop is a fun game, and I think Deathloop does time travel well because it's a 3-day tight loop. I think if I have to pick a concrete time travel, Deathloop by Arcane's Deathloop. I think that's a very good way of doing it. But if we're talking about long-term time, I think, yeah, that Eternal is just like entities popping in and out.
Yeah, so I will just do a little correction here for you. There is no time travel in Eternals. They just exist during the entire timeline, and like they can't travel between them. It's just they just show it along the line. But sure, I think I understand what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. Then Deathloop is my answer. Like I said, I'm not into time travel plots. I'm not into chronomancy. Yeah. Next roll is a 14.
Okay. Okay. Do you prefer PC or console gaming?
I have grown up as a console gamer my entire life. It is only this year on Black Friday that I got a PC for the first time. Anything that can run a game. what I've been enjoying about console gaming a lot is that people I know have PCs. So
Mhm.
if they want to play a game, it's a lot easier to hop in and just be like, hey, we all have it. And also, like, a lot of the things that I'm playing on a PC are a lot cheaper. So it is like that thing I talked about earlier where it's like, it's hard to be like, can we all get the $60
Yeah.
game of Mario Party so we can all play Mario Party on the Switch? So I like how, for me at least, PC gaming is far more communal than
Mhm.
console gaming, but I still have my lifelong commitment to console, and I would still rather sit on my couch and just like play a game on the big TV than sit here and play something here.
What's like your favorite console game current? Like, what's like one of those games? It doesn't matter what generation, what console. What's like the one game that's like that impacted me a lot? That's a game I always go back to if I could.
Yeah. I always go back to Twilight Princess. I love that game.
Hmm.
The Zelda, like Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. I play that. I tend to play it like every year. Like just do it like, oh, I haven't played it in a while. Let me do a replay through. But my favorite story in gaming is Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
Both like the 1997 version, and then I love what they're doing with the remake. And I love not Advent Children. What's it called? Crisis Core. I love Crisis
Yes.
Core. Didn't get to play it on the original PSP,
PSP.
or the PS Vita, whichever one it came out on. But I have the remake now, and I have played it all the way through. Zack Fair is my favorite character from that world.
Yeah.
I have a painting on that wall actually that's Zack and Cloud on either side of the Buster Sword. So like I love that dynamic between them. So like that's my favorite story. But then I think the game I go back to most is probably Dark Souls 1 or 3.
Okay.
And it's also like it's my pastime game. Like if I'm editing up my podcast, I'm playing Dark Souls while I'm editing because I know our speech patterns well enough. I know our words, meaning cut from here to here, well enough that I can like stop it. And I don't care if I die. So even if I'm mid boss fight, I'm like, oh, I need to fix something, put the controller down, get killed on the screen, fix it, and then go back and do it again. So those are the three that I go back to the most: are Twilight Princess, Final Fantasy VII, and then Dark Souls 3.
Okay. All right. Let's do one more dice roll, and then we're gonna get to all these questions.
Okay. 4.
Okay. That is favorite character in sci-fi or fantasy, and you can include a character you've created.
Character in sci-fi or fantasy. I'm gonna go with Dorothy Gale from The Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Not because of her original movie or book representation, but because of how much has been done with her since.
Okay. In what way?
I've talked with a couple people that like The Wizard of Oz is like I don't have any like real big hyperfixations, but The Wizard of Oz and the canon of the world is like mine. Like as a kid growing up, like anytime a book about it would come out would be a thing. I read Wicked and all the like sequel books like probably like 10 years ago at this point. Like I just love that world, and the way that she's a plot device for so much of it, even the stuff that doesn't impact her, is very interesting to me. And then the way that people have different takes on her. So like if we look at the MGM movie, just like this, like, oh no, I don't know what's going on, going from there, which is how she is in like the original like the Wonderful Wizard of Oz novella.
Mhm.
But then as she develops in the books and is like making friends with characters, or is like doing a lot of larger things, or like bringing in other people, is very fun. Then we look at how she's treated in the sequel movie, what's it called?
Return Oz.
Yeah, that one. How like she's treated very similar to Alice there, and it's almost like they fully just stole Alice in Wonderland, which is another series I really love and another world I love living in, and like took Alice, made it Dorothy, and sent her back, like that one. And then in more modern ones, you have the books like the Dorothy Must Die series and like the End of Oz and stuff like that, where it shows like her dark timeline and what if she was a tyrant, and what if like after the wizard left she took his power, and just like the whole, she's such a blank canvas as written, that it allows for so many stories to be told through her.
Mhm.
And it's also whether or not people choose to keep the idea of like she's a child and like childhood in there, very similar to Alice. Like the two of them, I honestly could swap between and have the same answer, because there is also so much like of the Alice in Wonderland books where like Alice is the same thing, because they're both like put into this world as children. What do they do as a result? I really like seeing how both of those characters are explored.
Okay. I have a question. So obviously I haven't ever seen Wicked until it came out in DVD release, right?
Yep.
And I still haven't watched it all the way through. I know.
Okay.
Is, from what I've seen, is Alice just a hitman sent by the Wizard of Oz, to kill the hero, the Wicked Witch, who is going against a system of corruption?
In the musical yes. But it's also very interesting because in the original US run, Dorothy herself is never seen on stage. You see her in a shadow box in the back for like the melting scene, but she's not actually there in a thing. But if you look at Wicked the book, Dorothy is in it, but she doesn't go as like a hitman. She doesn't go to try and kill She doesn't go to try and kill Elphaba. She finds out that she accidentally killed her sister with her house and all that. So she just wants to go and apologize. That's all she wants to do in the book, is she wants to go say, I'm so sorry I killed your sister. Also, I have these shoes. I know they're really important to you. What can I do to make it up to you? Like, she's in Wicked the novel by McGregor, was it? Greg, whatever the name. Jenna, tell me his name. By, like, in the book, she's not portrayed as, like, this hit piece or anything, because also, like, the plot of the second half of Wicked the book is huge different from the movie. Like, Glinda does not have a role. She is like married to some upper echelon society guy and just has tea parties. Like, she's only mentioned once. So much about the second half of the musical is entirely made up for the musical to kind of go along more with the MGM. But yeah, so in the musical, yes. In the book, no. In the book, she only actually ends up killing Elphaba on accident, because like she scares her and she like steps back and gets caught on fire, and she's like, oh, I will help you, and throws a bucket of water. Which in the book she's allergic to water, and like because of like all of the other magic stuff, like that's what kills her, is the water bucket, because she's allergic to it. And Dorothy does it on accident, trying to save her life because she just wants to apologize. So, and that's another way of like it gets shown so differently, even in the same title. Like Wicked the musical, hit person. Wicked the like book, apologetic young child. So.
I'm watching this. I'm like, so hold on. Someone turned all three of the only people that meant anything to Elphaba into the three people that joined the person sent by the wizard to go kill Elphaba. This is fucking traumatic. The three people she saved or were friends with are now joining the person that kills her.
And like, in the book, and spoilers for Wicked Part 2, not really, because I'm going to talk about the book more than the movie. Like, Fiero's not the Scarecrow in the book. He's just straight up dead. He gets killed by people that went to assassinate Elphaba because her cat was secretly a spy telling on her to like the political rivals. They're like, hey, she's plotting all of this bad stuff. And when she fails at her mission one night, the Gale Force, which are like the Secret Service, go and kill Fiero when he's waiting for her to come home. He's not the Scarecrow at all in that. The Cowardly Lion is kind of mentioned, but it's more the way it's done in the movie of like, hey, here we are, we're doing this thing. And then the Tin Man is set up because of, and this is where like I've read so much of them, but I might be getting things wrong, but I'm pretty sure in Wicked the book, the Tin Man is there because Nessa Rose, her sister, is like so mean to him as like his partner that like when she gets the slippers, she turns vile, like turns very evil, and describe the entire book as like serpent-like. She's not just in a wheelchair in the book, she's missing her arms. So when she moves, it's just like doing this sort of thing. And so he takes the axe that gets cursed because it was supposed to be a gift to like find his actual love, and they get the cursed axe and accidentally cuts himself to pieces, and then has to be built back together in like the Tin Man form. So in the musical, they went, let's traumatize with friendship. In the book, they're all very separate and distinct people that don't have so much of a connection. But also in the book, like she doesn't really have the magic or anything. Like the animals that follow her follow her. She has the book, but it's not like this dark evil book thing. She never steals it from the wizard. She gets given it by this recurring figure called Mother Yackle, who's like this like removed from time character that appears whenever is needed for plot reasons. That just is like, she goes to a cloister and like spends like a couple years of her life passed out in like a trauma coma, wakes up, has a child that may or may not be hers, and then is given this book and be like, go on your way. And the only reason she goes to the West is not to like fly there and become the Wicked Witch of the West. She's going to apologize to Fiero's family for being an adulteress with the like family's husband, and say, this is how your husband died. She's not going to become the Wicked Witch. She's going to apologize the same way Dorothy is trying to apologize for her to killing her sister. She's trying to apologize to Fiero's family for getting him killed by getting him involved in her political stuff.
We're going to move on to viewer questions.
Hooray!
All right, let's start this off. This is from, most of these are from Jenna.
Yeah.
Jenna, I want to meet you. I don't know if you want to meet me, but I want to meet you. I'm just gonna say that now because you're in the chat, and I'm gonna shoot my shot. Sean, what is your favorite ghost chat activity?
Jenna, I don't know. The ghost chat streams are a lot of fun, but I really just like the ghost chat every morning we all talk to each other and like we check in, we see how we're going. So the little morning check-ins are very fun. We also have matching phone backgrounds, which
Oh God.
like yeah, we are codependent. Like we all have this same phone background. We have matching shirts. So I just like the community. That is ghost chat.
Okay.
There's also now like this weird thing where as more people are dying, in the Castleton project, like Ghost Chat now has like 7 or 8 members, but to us, Ghost Chat is still the 3 of us. And so it's like when people say Ghost Chat, it's like, oh, we mean Jenna Ham Sean. But now everyone's like, oh, everyone that says like, no, 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 like that's something else. We are Ghost Chat. So
you need to respect your fucking elders. Sean, why sad boy?
I mean, I like I said, they're not sad, they're complex, and because I like playing characters that are an accurate representation of the world they live in. Like if you need an example, Jenna, because I'm assuming it was Jenna, like Drew from the Code Lyoko game, like he had clinical depression and he had a savior complex, but it's because he lost a friend as a child, and so he made sure everyone around him was good so that they never asked how he was feeling. I like building characters that have reasons for how they're working, and that's why I like Sad Boy.
What dark ritual have you done to achieve such perfect hair?
I saw this question earlier. This is a joke from the Witches game. Because every time we've met, I've just like woken up and been like, okay, we're good to go. And all of them are like doing work to make their hair look great and everything. And I'm just sitting here like, man, it's fine. And so one time, like I was out in a storm and they're like, there's no way that your hair still looks good. And I took a picture and like the wind had swept. It was when it was a little bit longer, but like wind had done like a perfect like wind sweep this way. So I sent a picture. I don't know, Jenna, be born with good traits.
Get good, kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Get good.
What favorite TTRPG trope? Harley, I love you. Please give me 2 seconds. She's nosing the shit out of me right now.
What's my favorite trope? I love a good paired connection in games. So like when especially like I really like when they're like I've done a couple romantic connections in games, but I really prefer when it's like sibling connections or like best friends from childhood that don't have like a then like oh and then they got together. Just like the story of like 2 people that have known each other, watching each other grow and change and still respecting who they are as their new people. I like that trope of like communal growth.
Okay. Favorite character you've played?
Ooh, I mean, Sylvain is up there. I don't think he's my favorite, but he is up there. Same with Drew. I don't know where Drew falls. I'm gonna go. One of my first clerics I played, his name was Rivem, and I'm making a different version of him for Saturday's level 21 shot. Was just like a story that I had at a table with friends where it was like there was no pressure to make like the right choices or anything, and he wasn't smart. He was an idiot that just lived his life doing what he wanted to do, and I just liked having a character that like they didn't like it wasn't a character that felt pressured to be anything. It was a character that was like, oh, I'm strong enough, and like one of the recurring jokes with him was like he hated ghosts, which is ironic now because Sean has always loved ghosts, but like he hated ghosts, and like there was a thing that like he went to a haunted castle and like 1v1 to the entire castle of ghosts because he was a cleric. He had all of his turned on dead. He had all of his like wisdom save spells, and like just was like, no, fuck these ghosts. He also hated the heat, which is a character I carry over because Sean hates heat. That's a character bleed for Sean whenever I'm in an ice setting. I hate the warmth. I love when it's 20 below and snowing. But he was just a character that like was very fun, but when he needed to turn it on, he was able to like turn on what he needed and just live his life. And I liked him. It was fun.
Okay. Let's see here. How many letters have you acquired to your name through degrees?
Ooh. 16.
Damn.
Yeah. Not all through for specifically through degrees 3,
Okay.
but then 4 for one of my professional licenses, 4 for my clinical license, and then 5 for one of my qualifications.
Okay.
Which like so not all like through degrees, but I think in the spirit of the question of what you're actually asking, after my name are 16 more letters.
Jeez Louise. What is your favorite group chat?
I really do like Ghost Chat, Jenna. I'll say it's Ghost Chat.
Okay.
Also, I don't have many group chats. Like even with like Maz, Taylor, and like everyone, we just independently talk to each other, and then we'll like hop into a voice call. So like if we need to have a group chat thing, we'll hop into a voice call. Ghost Chat's really the only chat that I have. Because yeah, if I'm gonna be talking to a group of people, I tend to do it over FaceTime.
Yeah.
Even with like friends, like we'll just call each other because, yeah. So okay, Ghost Chat, Jenna.
How do you feel to be the proud new
See what I mean
owner
about the
of everything-
codependency?
Yeah. Shannon wants to know, how do you feel about being the proud new owner of everything she has to do?
No, I told you I'm not doing your
Right.
work for you. No.
Yeah. Let's see here. Have you located Alice?
Off stream, we did locate Alice the first time. In terms of the games on stream, first game we found Alice and she was alive. Second game we did not find Alice, which actually makes the lore of that game so much sadder. And it just came down to, because the way the system worked, someone didn't get the ping to say like who was going to find Alice. So all of us knew how the game should work, and for the last like 10 minutes, it wasn't doing what the game was supposed to do. So all of us were sitting there like, okay, well, what's going on? And then the game just simply ended, and it just said like, result, Alice is dead. And like, but we never found her. We never had like the emotional thing that you typically have. Like we never had someone go to try and save her. So in the lore of that one game, it's 5 friends that still don't know what happened to their friend that just went missing one day, which makes that one so much more tragic.
Jesus. I know nothing about this game. I've heard about it. I know literally nothing about it. So I got to play this game at some point because it sounds like a lot of fun. I like plugged in when you were playing it one time, and I saw like you guys had like this weird screen. It was like messages popping up.
Yeah, so the whole game is a silent role-playing game only done through text.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like you're like 5 characters, 4 of which know Alice more recently, and 1 who is her best friend that moved away and is coming back for winter break. And so then it's like the one that comes back starts a group chat being like, hey, we're supposed to meet up this morning, but I haven't seen her. Has anyone else seen her? And then over the course of the 90 minutes, because it's a tight 90-minute game, there's a timer in the game, clues are revealed as it goes on about who she is as a person and why she has gone missing or who may have been involved. But also each character brings a secret into it. So like some of them are like, Alice asked me to hide something for her. What is it? Or like Alice is planning on doing something drastic. What is it? So the characters, the players build who Alice is through what they say about her and like their characters' interactions with her. And then it's just like by the end of the base game, the expansion's an entirely different thing. But by the base game, the outcomes are you find Alice and she's either alive or dead.
Don't tell me. I want to play this game.
No, it's like that's all it is. Yeah. Okay. Well, the ending changes each time it's randomized. So that's what's helpful about it, and why it's so replayable. But yeah, and so we didn't find Alice. We found Alice. We didn't find Alice. We found Alice, but she was choosing to run away instead. That's when the expansion endings they get weird. And then we found Alice. So I have found Alice in 4 of my games, only for real in 3 of my games, and then in 1 game we never found her, and we don't even know what happened to her.
Jesus.
So,
yeah. What's your 3rd favorite lizard? Is this an inside joke from Jenna? I'm saying.
No, this is a Jenna, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jenna used to want to like have a show where she went up to people at bars and asked what their 3rd favorite lizard was. Like would be like, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Record. What's your 3rd favorite lizard?" Just a Jenna thing. My favorite is those funky little guys that can run on water. I get to go like meow, 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 meow. I like them a lot. I don't remember their name, but they're fun. My 2nd favorite is probably gonna be a Komodo dragon because they're just cool.
Obvi,
so
dragon in the name.
My 3rd favorite. Oh, I think my 3rd favorite. Those weird little gecko guys you find in Florida that like show up in your house, or like I think maybe they're chameleons, but like are on trees or something, and it's just like why are you here, weird little lizard? And they look at you and scurry away. I like their energy. I'm gonna go with those ones.
Or when you go to Disney and it's just a little bit too cold at night and they all just sit around and you can pick them up.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I can't
Yeah,
move.
like those little guys. I like them.
All right. Sean Ganochi wants to know what treat you're going to send him and is it ornament?
Noki, which is Jenna's dog. Jenna, I don't know where you live. I can't send stuff. And also, don't let your dog eat ornaments.
Bad call. Let's see. From Kate. Okay, the only thing that this. Oh no, that's not a question. Let's see. Jenna, we met at the Marriott. If it was on Friday night, don't remember much of that night, so I apologize. Kate, we know you love sad characters and sad games. What advice do you have for playing sad?
Well, that's a good one. Do it with the table you're comfortable with. Don't do like there's a, and this is a talk I've had with people as well. There's a good safe way to use TTRPGs as a form of therapy and as a form of counseling and a form of growth. Don't do that. Like if you're playing a game for fun, do not expect the rest of the table to be trying to therapize you with it. So don't do anything sad there. Don't let the character bleed get real. Know where the line is. Know where the line like needs to end. Know for yourself. Know for the character. And if you're gonna do it in an AP sort of way, know what you're trying to do so that it doesn't come across as disingenuine. Because I feel like that's something that can easily happen. Is people are like, oh, I'm just always sad all the time. Which, like, that's fine, but if you're trying to portray something, don't let it get disingenuine in that way.
That's fair. This is from Kate as well. You're too good at doing voices for your characters. Can you tell us about how you decide what your characters sound like?
No. I just speak, and then whatever voice comes out at the start is the voice I go with from then on. Have I prepped any character voices? No. And if I need something quick, I go with default bad Southern, because it's easy.
Yeah.
So I don't really prep them. It's more like I start speaking, I'm like, oh, there we go. That's the voice of this character. I guess that's what we're living in.
Let's see here. Okay, I think that's all the questions. That was a lot. I blame Jenna for making us run over 2 minutes on what I said is a tight hour and a half, but you know what? I'll allow it.
Hey.
Yeah. Go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you. What are you appearing on next? Tell everyone with all the deets.
Yeah. Let me look at my calendar because that is where I can answer that question. So next, if you want to see me live at 6 p.m. Eastern over on Classic Sam NYGN on Saturday, we will be doing a level 20 one-shot where the premise is some maybe credible people said, hey, you all have been adventurers who have done everything, but you never got that one thing. If you win, we'll give you that one thing. But we have not had the terms of win defined yet, so I'm very excited to see how that game goes. If you want to see some not D&D chaotic little fun times, on the 22nd at at 7 o'clock Eastern will be the game of Guy Fieri's Bisexuals, where we will be monsters doing our thing. On the 30th of January will be Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is I should have said this at some point. I'm going to do, for like my goals for this year, I'm going to have a series that I'm starting that are going, I don't have the name for it yet, but it's going to be like something about like melancholy moments or like sad stories or something like streams that are specifically marketed as like, this is here to address like some sort of like sad or melancholy or depressed or drama or something. We're going to have the first one of those on December 30th of playing a game of Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast. And then for February, just kind of not doing much. I have a fundraiser for Black History Month I'm in the process of putting together. I have a game with Meadow and Maz that we're doing. Meadow specifically asked for Maz and I to hurt each other. It's a game that Meadow wrote that Maz and I will be doing.
Yes.
And then Jacob and I will be doing a Valentine's Day stream on the 13th, playing a game of Not Yet, which is the story. It's the playing on the trope of like people that are destined to meet each other and spend their lives together, but every time they had a missed connection at the start. So like one's leaving a coffee shop as the other one walks in, or like one was at the bookstore across the street and like you caught each other's eye, but then a car went through and the other one was gone. We're gonna do a little duet game of that. And then in March, the Witches game that we're currently in production on will be going live. And for 7 weeks, you can tune in and find, which is already a great story. We've recorded 2 of the episodes, and like I've seen their posts, and they're amazing. Oh yeah. Oh, when is that, Jenna? On February 8th. On February 8th, at 7 p.m. Eastern, there'll be a Ghost Chat stream. I didn't forget. You did. We need to come up with the theme for it. There'll be a Ghost Chat stream, so if you're into smut and monster smut and object smut, come listen to 3 of us review it. Like literally, like we read it and then we do like critical literary analysis of the smut books.
Okay.
Is what a Ghost Chat stream is. And then yeah, other than that, you can find me on my podcast doing things. If you want to hear this, like the very narrative, living story of our world, you can find me on Somebody's Heroes playing Sylvain and a couple of other characters, most of whom are more like world element pieces than they are characters themselves. But hey, and then there are a couple of other shows that I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about yet that are going to be coming out. So find those when they come out on socials. I'll post about them.
Yes, they will all be posted on your socials, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Best social to keep up to date with all your stuff. Which one is it?
If you want pure announcements, Instagram. Because I post every announcement to Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is going to bring us to the end of this interview. Thank you so much, Sean, for joining me. It's been a pleasure playing at the table with you that we have played together with. I hope we get to work together again in the future because it's been a lot of fun. This has been an amazing interview. I've got nothing else. If you've got nothing else, remember, we love you.
Nope.
Geeks. Good night.